The ancient Romans were ahead of their time, so there are a lot of interesting facts about this state and its inhabitants. Did you know that the colour and length of the Roman toga indicated a person's status? Slaves were not issued distinctive clothing for fear of rebellion, and in public toilets slaves warmed seats for their masters in advance. The Roman and his famous toga are such an affinity that no one imagines them separately. In fact, the toga was an incredibly difficult garment to maintain, so much so that you had to learn the skill separately. In the beginning, the toga was a universal garment for everyone, but gradually only men began to wear it. An ancient Roman, looking at a man in a toga, could determine his status. Brown, grey, or black is the most common. White is the sign of an adult. Bleached, a civil servant with pure intentions. Toga with a thin scarlet stripe for golden youth. With a wide red stripe, a senator, and purple toga, the privilege of the triumphant and emperor. Many people believe that in ancient Rome they spoke only Latin. It's a common stereotype. In reality, the Romans in each region spoke their own dialect. If in one place was relevant ancient Greek language, in another, Etruscan. And those living between these areas could pick up from both sides, resulting in another dialect. Yes, the official language in Rome was Latin, but they even spoke Oscan. And thanks to Hollywood directors, ancient Rome is associated with gladiatorial fights and Colosseum. In fact, the people of Rome were not so bloodthirsty as they want to show. The Romans had chariot races in the first place. The great circus was erected for this purpose. It was the most extensive hippodrome, which accommodated more than 150,000 spectators, not counting participants and organizers. For comparison, in the Colosseum, up to 50,000 people could be present at the same time. We all know that every wealthy person had slaves. Even those who lived average could have a couple of slaves for rough labor. In the Senate, it was once proposed to introduce separate insignia, that free citizens should wear one kind of clothing and slaves another. Perhaps they would have done so. But someone clever voiced a sensible idea. If slaves see that they are much more numerous than free ones, the free ones will be in trouble. And the decision was rejected. Do you know what latrines are? Latrines is what the ancient Romans called public toilets. A marble board with seats and no partitions between them. But no one ever tried to be private here. It was something like modern meeting rooms. People flocked to the latrinas to socialize while coping with their natural needs. The nobles would send slaves ahead of them to warm their seats, and Emperor Vespasian decided to impose a tax on visiting toilets. By the way, he also owns the winged phrase that money does not smell. Rulers and representatives of the nobility in ancient Rome from time to time took a small amount of poisonous mixture known as Mithridatium. Their desire was simple and understandable, to develop immunity, but their knowledge of anatomy and chemistry was clearly insufficient. Most of the respected personalities had their own group of food tasters. In addition, the custom of clinking glasses also came to us from ancient Rome. At that time they tried to knock glasses so that the drink overflowed from one vessel to another. In ancient Rome, only 18 male names were used, and there were no personal female names at all. A woman's name was a derivative of her father's name. Cornelia is of the family Cornelius. That is, this girl is the daughter of a man named Cornelius. Julian had several daughters, so they were all automatically Julii. But how to identify each of the daughters? So society began assigning prenomina or ordinal numbers to the girls. For example, the middle daughter became Julia Secunda or Julia II, and the fifth daughter became Julia Quinta, or simply Julia V.